Fiancée planned a pleasant night with her lover at a hotel room. I found out and surprised her with her parents in the middle of the night. I, 27M, was working as a bartender at a popular downtown spot when I first met my fiancée, 25F, 3 years ago. She came in with some friends after work, and we hit it off immediately. Our relationship moved pretty fast. Within a year, we were living together, and 6 months ago, I proposed. Everything seemed great until 2 weeks ago. I started noticing small changes in her behavior. She began working late more often, which was unusual for her job as an administrative assistant. Her phone was always face down, and she'd take calls in another room. At first, I brushed it off as wedding planning stress. We were supposed to get married in 3 months. Then came the red flags I couldn't ignore. She changed her phone's password. When I asked about it casually, she said she'd been getting spam calls and was being extra careful. But I'd catch her smiling at her phone late at night, quickly putting it away when I walked in. The final straw was when I overheard her on the phone while she was in the shower. I was grabbing towels from the laundry room next to our bathroom when I heard her giggling and saying, "I can't wait to see you two. Yes, I'll wear that outfit you like." She thought the shower noise would drown out her voice. That night, I couldn't sleep. While she was dead to the world, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. It took a few tries, but I figured out her new password was her ex's birthday. What I found made my blood boil. She'd been texting her ex-boyfriend, who'd recently moved back to town. The messages went back nearly 2 months. They started innocently enough, catching up, reminiscing. Then they turned flirty. Then explicit. They'd met up for coffee 3 times already, and now they were planning something bigger. They had reservations at a hotel for this Friday night. She told me she was going to visit her sister in the next town over. They planned everything, the room number, what time to meet, even what wine to order from room service. I sat there for hours, reading through everything, taking screenshots and sending them to my phone. The next day, I called in sick to work and started making my own plans. First, I called her parents. They'd always treated me like a son, and her father especially had welcomed me into their family with open arms. When I showed them the messages, her mother broke down crying, and her father, well, I'd never seen him so angry. Together with her parents, we devised a plan. Her father insisted on being there when everything came to light. He wanted to see for himself what his daughter had become. Her mother was hesitant at first, but ultimately agreed it needed to happen. I spent the next few days pretending everything was normal. It was the hardest act I've ever had to put on. Every time she kissed me goodbye, every time she smiled at me, I kept seeing those messages in my head. She kept talking about wedding details like nothing was wrong, even asking me about invitation designs the day before she planned to meet him. Friday came. She packed her overnight bag, telling me she'd be back Saturday afternoon after spending time with her sister. She even asked me what I wanted her to bring back from her sister's favorite bakery. The level of detail in her lies was chilling. I waited an hour after she left, then drove to the hotel with her parents. I'd already called the hotel earlier that week, explaining the situation to the manager. He was a mutual friend. He was understanding and agreed to help us. He gave us a key to the adjacent room and promised to notify us when both of them had checked in. Around 8 p.m., we got the call. They were both in the room. The manager confirmed they'd ordered champagne and dinner. We waited another hour, giving them time to get comfortable, to think they'd gotten away with it. At exactly 9:15 p.m., we made our move. Her father insisted on knocking. There was music playing inside, and we could hear laughter. The knocking continued for almost a minute before the music quieted down. Room service. I called out, disguising my voice. We heard shuffling, whispered conversation, then footsteps. The door opened, and there she stood, wearing lingerie barely covered by a hotel robe. Her expression when she saw us, her parents and me, will stay with me forever. Pure shock, followed by horror, then shame. Her ex tried to hide in the bathroom, but her father's booming voice stopped him. "Get out here, boy. If you're man enough to sleep with an engaged woman, you're man enough to face her family." The next 20 minutes were chaos. Her ex tried to blame her, saying she'd pursued him, that she'd said she was unhappy with me. She tried to blame him, claiming he'd manipulated her. Then she turned to me, tears streaming down her face, begging me to understand that it was a mistake, that she still loved me. Her father cut through all the excuses. He asked her one simple question. Did you plan this? When she couldn't answer, he pulled out his phone and started reading their messages out loud, the ones I'd forwarded to him. Every flirtatious exchange, every lie she told me, every detail of their plan. Her ex tried to slip out during this, but I blocked the door. You helped destroy what would have been a marriage, I told him. The least you can do is stay and face the consequences. That's when she switched tactics. She started accusing me of violating her privacy by checking her phone. Her father shut that down immediately. You lost any right to privacy when you decided to cheat on the man we welcomed into our family as a son. Her mother, who had been quiet until then, finally spoke up. We raised you better than this, she said, her voice shaking. You've not only betrayed your fiancé, you betrayed this entire family's trust. Then came the desperate attempts to salvage the situation. She offered to cut off all contact with her ex, to go to couples counseling, to postpone the wedding until she could prove herself trustworthy again. Her ex, seeing her desperation, tried to edge away from her, making it clear he had no intention of dealing with this drama. That's when I revealed the final piece of information I'd been holding back. While you were planning this little evening, I said, pulling out my phone, I was busy too. I've already contacted all our wedding vendors. The venue, the caterers, the florist, everyone. I've explained the situation and canceled everything. The color drained from her face. We'd already paid deposits for most things, and her parents had put down a significant amount for the venue. The vendors were surprisingly understanding, I continued. Some of them are giving refunds because of the circumstances. A few are keeping the deposits, but your parents agreed that's a small price to pay to discover your true character before the wedding. Her ex took this opportunity to make a break for it. This is between you guys, he said, grabbing his jacket. I'm out of here. He tried to give her a backward glance, but she wasn't even looking at him anymore. She was staring at me, then at her parents, realizing just how completely her carefully planned deception had unraveled. You can stay here for the night, I told her. I'll be at our apartment. Well, my apartment now, packing your things. Your parents have agreed to store them at their house until you figure out your living situation. Her father added, you can stay with us temporarily, but only until you find your own place. Your mother and I need time to process this betrayal. The disappointment in his voice was palpable. She started to protest, but I cut her off. The lease is in my name. I've already spoken to the landlord. You have 30 days to officially remove your things, but I want you out sooner. Consider this your formal notice. As we turned to leave, she made one last desperate attempt. Please, she begged, at least talk to me privately. We can work this out. I really looked at her for the last time. There's nothing to work out. You didn't make a mistake. You made a series of calculated decisions. You chose to contact your ex. You chose to meet him secretly. You chose to plan this night. You chose to lie to me about visiting your sister. Each of those was a conscious choice. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and logistics. True to my word, I packed her things that night, carefully despite my anger, and her parents picked everything up the next day. She tried calling and texting constantly for the first week, alternating between apologies, accusations, and pleas for another chance. I blocked her number. Word got around our social circle quickly. She tried to spin the story her way, but I had evidence, the screenshots, the hotel receipts, even witnesses and her own parents. Most of our friends sided with me, and those who didn't, I was happy to lose. 3 months later, what would have been our wedding day, I took a trip alone to a beach I'd always wanted to visit. Sitting there watching the sunset, I felt nothing but relief. Relief that I discovered the truth before marriage, before kids, before our lives became truly intertwined. Her parents still keep in touch. They recently told me she's moved to another city for a fresh start. Her ex apparently ghosted her completely after that night at the hotel. Last I heard, she's in therapy, finally facing the consequences of her actions.